Hello, my friend, and welcome back. Today, I feel inspired to talk about something that really resonated with me, and I just felt the need to share it with you. So, was it yesterday or the day before that I saw something on Instagram, and it said, basically just to be wary about, they were referring to them as like demons, the demons that are running through the New Age community right now. And I want to touch on a couple things about that. Now, that really resonated with me. And the reason why it really resonated with me is because I'm a firm believer in not just taking things as people give them to you and just accepting them for the way that they are. I believe in using your own discernment. I believe that God made us all individuals, therefore there is no blanket anything. So you need to be using your own discernment when you are taking lifestyle advice or listening to a video like this or anything, any sort of advice or anything that someone is telling you, to do something or what to do, or this is the way that you should be doing it. My first warning to you is to anyone that is telling you anything that you must do. You have to do this if you want to do that. You have to do it this way. You must be doing this. If you are a spiritual person, you must be vegan, because you can't be vegan and you can't be a spiritual person and not be vegan. A lot of those really dogmatic principles that are kind of coming into play right now. Really, really interesting to see how this plays out. And that is the attitude that I believe that we need to have, that observer attitude of this is really interesting. Because once we go from having that, I want to say observatory, is that a word? Perspective. Once you have the perspective of being an observer, you are able to then listen to your intuition. You're able to hear your discernment. You're able to not get wrapped up in that, oh my goodness, what do they call that? That group mentality. You're able to have that perspective. But once you step into that kind of, I just want to call it chaos that's going on right now. It's the end of June in 2022. I live in the United States, so I don't want to bring it up. I don't really want to talk about it or give it any energy. But, something legal-wise just really divisively came down in the United States. I don't know, yesterday, the day before. And it's really easy to get wrapped up in it, and you want to be about freedom, and you want to be about choice, and you want to make your voice heard, and that is all well and great, but you need to put yourself into perspective of where you are coming from. Are you joining the masses in this divisive technique, and you're taking a side, and you're against the other side, and you don't think the way that I think? I'm going to change your mind because you need to be thinking the way that I'm thinking because I'm right. We all know that the sweet Lord has a way of telling us every single time that when we think we're so right, to show us that we are not right. Nothing is black and white. Nothing is right and wrong. And what we need to be careful of is that we are in spiritual warfare right now. And the enemy, the dark light, whatever, the darkness, doesn't play by any rules. So it's not like people in the New Age community are exempt from being tempted. They're exempt from the ego. No, that's not true. It's even more into place because, once you are living, a spiritual lifestyle, it is very easy to invoke that self-righteousness of that you know what to do and you know the best way for everything, but that is not the truth. the truth is that you have no idea. You think you know for yourself. You think you could tell someone, and it might come from a good place. That's why I like to come from a sharing place. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You're here to tell yourself what to do. You're a grown-ass person. So I am here to just share my thoughts, share my feelings and how I feel. I'm not here to tell you what to do. No one's here to tell you what to do. That's why God gave us free will. But there is the other side to that. There is that responsibility to that free will. That is understanding yourself, that you can't just be willy-nilly jumping on every single bandwagon that is floating by, because you need to, during times of spiritual warfare, we need to be looking beyond the surface. Okay? Something crazy just happened. So should we be in the streets? Why are people not in the streets, like rioting and burning everything down? It's like, well, we saw kind of how that panned out 2 years ago, and it didn't really pan out that well. And number two, it's because that is the reaction that they want, that is the divisiveness that they're really trying to hone in right now. And here's the other thing, the other side to that. So not just that you need to be thinking for yourself, and you need to not be jumping into that group mentality so quickly. The other part of understanding that is we have to understand how our vibration affects everything that is going on right now. And that is, I think, needs to be the pinnacle of what we are focusing on right now. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the future. How is this going to affect the future? How is this affecting people right now? Are women dying? Babies are dying, women are dying, everybody's dying, everything's crazy, everything's awful. Are you getting wrapped up in those feelings, and then you're feeling those feelings in your heart, and then the heart is vibrating and putting that out into the universe? Is that the kind of vibration you want to be putting out? So when we are going through things and it puts us into a state of fear, into a state of anger, into a state of confusion and angst, we have to understand those are lower vibrational frequencies. And those, think about it as it feeds the darkness. Lower vibrations feed lower entities, and higher vibrations feed higher entities. And I don't mean entities like ghosts or something like that. I just mean the collective vibration. And as spiritual people, as aware spiritual people, as light workers, as light warriors, we are here to have that awareness. And to have that awareness, and then to bring ourselves back into it. Now, you can't swing. Don't try and swing. Don't go into this toxic positivity where you are trying to swing from here all the way back into the positive. You look like, hey, our rights were taken away here, but this is going to swing all the way into the positive, and try, because that's it's fake, and it's not really going to affect how you feel and what you believe. But if you were to take that situation and you were to move it from the negative, and these are all judgments, but just for video's sake, if you were to go from the negative and then move it into neutrality. Neutrality is where you can kind of take that negative and make it into a positive. You can't always go from a negative straight into the positive, because things don't work like that. And especially, you don't want to be that toxic, positive person that isn't living in the real world. We are also here to live in reality. Let's not forget that, or we wouldn't be human. So if you're able to move, say, okay, our rights were taken away, this is awful, you can acknowledge that, you can see how you feel, and then let's take it into a neutral place. Let's remind ourselves that we are eternal spiritual beings. We are immortal spiritual beings living a temporary human experience. So number one, everything is temporary. Number two, let's remind ourselves that our judgment to things is what makes things good or bad. So you look at what happened, you're like, that's awful. well, is it? Or is you saying that it's awful a judgment? Everything is God's plans. Everything is the divine's plan. So we don't know what that plan is, and it is not our job to even be concerned with it. But our job is to manage how we are currently feeling, and that is where our job comes in. That is where we spread the most light. So when you're in a negative situation, bring it up to that neutral spot. Okay, say to yourself, okay, God's in control of everything. And then this happens. So this is part of God's plan. And I am going to respect it as part of God's plan. Doesn't mean I can't have conversations around it. Doesn't mean I can't have an opinion around it. But it just means that I am going to respect it as God's plan. I think this is awful, but I'm human. And that is why I am human. And I can have those judgments, but I need to realize that that is a judgment. Okay, so let's let that judgment part go. Let's put everything in God's hands. Let's also let that go. And then the next part, the last step of putting it into neutrality is the action behind it. You can tell yourself all day that you're neutral, and then as soon as you get into a conversation and someone triggers you, and then all of a sudden you're like, you're giving it to them, So the way we avoid that is obviously our practices, but is to then actually feel that, to actually bring that into play, to actually bring that faith and trust into play, and to be able to separate yourself from that. It's a highly charged emotional subject. Do you think that's why it's coming out right now? I mean, we have to open our eyes. We can no longer live our lives with our eyes shut. We can't. That's part of what this time is about. We need to open our eyes. We need to acknowledge what is happening, but we also need to say, not today. You're not pulling me down into that vibration. I am not going to join all of these angry, sad, scared people, because I know better. I know that being angry and being scared or frustrated, those lower vibrational emotions are not doing anything for anyone. They're not doing anything for me, not doing anything for you, and not doing anything for the collective. So we need to constantly be reminding ourselves and constantly keeping our eyes open. And it's frustrating, and it kind of feels exhausting, and it's almost like, wow, like I can't even trust the spiritual community anymore. Like the New Age community, people are wilding. Like, well, here's the thing about the New Age community: people have always been wilding. They always have been. It's always been. It's the Wild West, there's no regulations or anything, which is fine, which is wonderful. There's 8 billion people on the planet. That means that there are 8 billion roads to God, 8 billion roads to spirituality, because they are all different. But when I saw that thing about, the demons running rampant also in the New Age community, it is a little disheartening, but let's bring it into that neutrality. Let's understand. People are people. New Age people are people. You can't say that this community is untouched. You can't say that the religious community is running rampant with demons, but not the New Age community. No, it's not. It's not a specific industry. It is humanity in general. There are a lot of people that are amazing, wonderful people that are not religious, are not spiritual at all. And God doesn't love them any less. Even the least spiritual person on the planet, the most evil person here, God does not love them any more, any less than you and I. These are the things we need to remind ourselves and to use our discernment. That's kind of where this video started, and this is where this video will end. Our discernment is our God-given gift for times like this. So if you find yourself getting wrapped up, just take a minute to pause. Say you're scrolling on Facebook and you're into it, and you can feel the negative emotion brewing, because that's what social media does. It invokes emotion. Feel that. Stop. Take a second. Stop. The first thing you got to do is stop. Take a breath. Pause. And then drop into your heart. Why is this upsetting me? What's happening? Do I need to do some healing around this? Is this bringing up some unhealed trauma for me? Is this something I need to pass? If it is, okay. Acknowledge it, feel it, let it pass. But if it's not, and you're like, wow, am I just getting wrapped up in that groupthink mentality, the herd mentality? Am I just getting wrapped up in that? I think I am. You know, God is telling me what I'm feeling in my heart is to trust and to have faith in God. And that's what I'm going to do. And like I said, this doesn't mean you can't share your opinion. It doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. It doesn't mean that you can't express it and have conversations. But we need to be aware of how we're having those conversations. And as a spiritual person, I think it is also really helpful to use your discernment in when you are having those conversations to help you to feel if this conversation is going to be productive or not. And I hate to be that blunt, but sometimes you can feel when you're speaking to someone that you might as well just be speaking to a wall. You don't have to waste your energy. It is not your job to teach people and to show people the new way. Be the example, live your life, be the change you want to be. Don't worry about if everyone is seeing you and is able to follow you, and don't worry about that. You are the leader, you are walking first, you don't walk behind, you don't look at who's following behind you. Always keep your eyes on God and keep them up to the sky, keep them up on the Lord and keep moving forward. That is how you be the example, you know, and understanding that we're not here to teach life lessons to people. That's God's job. That is above our pay grade. We are here to stay in our lane. Yes, to help each other, of course, and to spread the light. But at that balance, you got to strike that balance. And the way you do that is your discernment. So use your discernment during these times with everything. Something doesn't quite feel right to you, it's okay to question it. You know, even if sometimes things are feeling right, you still might want to review it, you know? Am I just wrapped up in living in la la land? Because again, there is that balance between not being wrapped up in what is happening in the world and being just like a self-aware individual. So you don't want to live in ignorance is bliss, but you also don't want to be living in fear. Living in a lower vibration, because then you might as well just close your eyes and go back to sleep and join the sheep and see that's not what we're here for. So I just wanted to share that reminder. That is a reminder for me. And I just wanted to mention one other thing. This video is so long, but I don't consume a lot of content. I don't consume a lot of spiritual content. There are a couple spiritual influencers that I like and spiritual teachers that I will follow. However, most spiritual content doesn't resonate with me. And I mean that in a way, not that I don't believe it or I was like, oh, that's not for me. It's just, I just don't feel compelled to consume a lot of it. So a lot of times, you know, when I'm on Instagram and I see something like that, like a lot of times I will just keep scrolling because that's not exactly the environment for me a little bit. And the reason why I want to mention that is the fact that I don't follow and consume a lot of content is because it makes it a whole lot easier to hear your discernment and to know kind of like what is good for you. And to kind of get yourself out of that thinking that someone else is going to tell you what is right for your life. So that is kind of why I don't consume a lot of content. And that is why I guess when I saw that meme or whatever about the demons running rampant in the New Age community, I just felt so compelled to talk about it and share it because I guess I I really never thought about it too much because I don't consider myself new age, and I don't consider myself in the new age community. I think that that term is just so passé. Like, I think that I think we should call it the now age. But that's just me. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Anne, and I hope to see you next time.